Hello, welcome to the First Christian Church Friendship Sunday School class online. I'm Lane Moore, and we will be continuing with online Sunday school for probably a couple more weeks, maybe three. I'll let you know for sure. But I do need a head count for everybody on books when we move back into our classroom, and that will be done this month of September. Let me know. Here's my email address. I've been told that's hard to read on screen, but it's more, my last name, development, like it's spelled, at sbcsamboycatglobal.net. More development at sbcglobal.net. I know that's the highest of high tech, but that's the way it's going to be. If you recall, we're in the book of Exodus studying Moses, and last week we left the Israelites at the Passover. As you recall, to review very quickly, the Israelites had been in Egypt. In the very beginning, during their tenure in Egypt, they were favored people. After 430 years, they were slaves, and they called out to God to save them, and God has sent Moses to lead them out of Egypt. Now, Moses, pleased to Pharaoh, fell on deaf ears, and God, through Moses, unleashed plagues upon Pharaoh in the land of Egypt to encourage Pharaoh to let the people of Israel go. The last plague was the Passover, or the death of the firstborn, human and animal, of all the Egyptians, and the Israelites were saved by the Passover lamb when they slaughtered a Passover lamb of a sheep or goat that was without flaw, then and daubed that blood on the header and door jamb of their homes. The angel of death passed over the Israelite households and saved them. And as the Passover lamb saved the Israelites from the Egyptians and from death of the firstborn, our Passover lamb was Jesus Christ, who saves us from sin. Now, let me read to you verse 29 of chapter 12 in the book of Exodus. That was the last verse we read last week. It'll be the first verse of this week. And then we will move through several chapters in the book of Exodus. I will read a lot out of Scripture to you because it is written as a story, and I can't tell it any better than Moses wrote it. But I will skip through and try and give you the high points of some of the scriptures. So here's chapter 12, verse 29. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on the throne, to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. This is verse 31, chapter 12. During the night, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Up, leave my people, you and the Israelites. Go worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds as you have said, and go, and also bless me." So Pharaoh turns them loose, but asks for their blessing. Now let's move over to chapter 13, verse 17. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. For God said if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea. So rather than go the short way through Philistine land, God sent the Israelites south. If you look at a map, their journey was headed south along the Red Sea, and the Israelites went up out of Egypt armed for battle. Verse 19, Moses took the bones of Joseph with him because Joseph had made the sons of Israel swear an oath. He had said, God will surely come to your aid, and you must carry my bones up with you from this place. After leaving Succoth, they camped at Etham on the edge of the desert. By day, the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or by night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Down now, chapter 14, verse 5. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, What have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. Well, this is nothing new. If you recall, back during the plagues, Pharaoh agreed that, okay, stop the plague and I'll let you go. He did that at least twice, maybe 3 times. So now he says, okay, you guys can go. Oh, only kidding. Had my fingers crossed. We're coming after you. So he had his chariots made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers all over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea near Pi Hahiroth, opposite Baal Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, Leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Now these are the people that witnessed the plagues. They also witnessed the firstborn of all the Egyptians without having one of their firstborn killed. But they're fussing now because they think the Egyptians are going to kill them. They got them backed up. It's the Jews, Red Sea on one side, Egyptians on the other. Moses answered the people, Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you need only to be still. So, in a kind way, Joseph said, shut up and pay attention. Or Moses said, shut up and pay attention. Then the Lord said to Moses, Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the waters so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night the cloud brought darkness to the one side and light to the other, so neither went near the other all night long. So God has separated the Egyptians and the Israelites through this pillar of cloud, so they can't fight each other. Egyptians can't fight the Israelites. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong wind, strong east wind, and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He made the wheels of their chariots come off so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the great power of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses, his servant. Now, the Israelites are wandering through the wilderness, or they're on a journey. Let's put it that way. They are on a journey to the land of Canaan, and they're starting to get hungry. Let me read to you from chapter 16. The whole Israelite community, this is chapter 16, verse 1. The whole Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had come out of Egypt. So this is 45 days after the Passover. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death." So here we go again. The same people that saw the Passover and saw the Red Sea parted are now getting hungry, and they're fussing about starving to death. So then the Lord said to Moses, this is chapter 4, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the 6th day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days." Now let's skip down to verse 13. "That evening, quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, 'What is it?' For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, 'It is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Each one is to gather as much as he needs. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent.'" So each day God sent quail and manna for 6 days. They were to only gather as much as they needed and would eat for that day. And then on the evening of the 6th day, they would gather twice as much so they could have food for Sunday, because there wouldn't be, actually at that time it would have been Saturday, they wouldn't have food on the Sabbath, so they were to prepare ahead. Now, if they got hoggish and they gathered twice as much on Monday so they could have a snack at midnight, it would all turn to maggots. That's the way they ate. They ate that way they ate manna. Well, let me read to you from verse 35. This is chapter 16, verse 35. "These Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they came to the land that was settled. They ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan." Now, from I just looked at myself in the screen. I was going to apologize for this ahead of time, and I forgot. I guess you see the scruffiness here. I'm up against the deadline. I didn't have time to shave, or you weren't going to get this tomorrow. So forgive me for that, please. Here we are, chapter 17. "The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, But there was no water for the people to drink, so they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Here again, same people that saw all the other miracles up till now. But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." He didn't say, "They're driving me crazy," but that's what he's thinking. The Lord answered Moses, "Walk on ahead of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" The Amalekites, this is verse 8, chapter 17. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands like this, the Israelites were winning. The Israelites were winning when Moses had up his hands. But whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that his hands remained steady until sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this on a scroll as something to be remembered, and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven." Moses built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner." He said, "For hands were lifted up to the throne of the Lord. The Lord will be at war against the Amalekites from generation to generation." Now, the Israelites are in Midian. This is where this part of the story takes place. And if you recall, that is where Moses hid out. That's where he went after he killed the Egyptian and had to get out of Egypt. He went to Midian, found a nice girl there. They got married, had a couple sons, and Moses' father-in-law was named Jethro. And Jethro comes to see Moses at the encampment while they are in Midian. And Moses tells Jethro what's been going on, tells him about leaving Egypt, tells him about their journey through the Red Sea. And this is verse 9. Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hands of the Egyptians. He said, "Praise be to the Lord, who rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and of Pharaoh, and who rescued the people from the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all other gods, for he did this to those who had treated Israel arrogantly." Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people. Now, this is what happened during the day. When they weren't traveling, Moses was settling disputes. And this, there we go. Nose itch on camera. The next day, Moses took a seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When the father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge, while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?" Moses answered him, "Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and laws. Moses' father-in-law replied, "What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you and you cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them the decrees and laws and show them the way to live and the duties they are to perform. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter, because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied." Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his own country. Now, what this did was it set up the giving of the Ten Commandments, because Moses has to teach the people of Israel what God expects of them. Now, here we are at Mount Sinai, and we are encamped at the base of Mount Sinai, and God tells Moses to tell the people, well, first of all, he brings Moses up the mountain to talk to him. God told Moses to tell the people to consecrate themselves, which meant they needed to get their minds right. And they need, in this consecration process, they need to wash their clothes, and they need to abstain from sex. I didn't make that up. It's verse 15 of chapter 19. So after 3 days, the Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses went up, and the Lord said to him, "Go down and warn the people so they do not force their way through to see the Lord, and many of them perish," because they can't touch sacred ground, and the sacred ground is up on Mount Sinai where God is. "Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them." Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us. Put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy." The Lord replied, "Go down and bring Aaron up with you, but the priests and the people must not force their way through to come up to the Lord, or he will break out against them." So Moses went down to the people and told them. And God spoke all these words: "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery." Now, here we go. Here's the Ten Commandments. This is Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. "You shall have no other gods before me." Verse 4, "You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. God has come to test you so that the fear of God will be with you to keep you from sinning." The people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick darkness where God was. So we'll leave there. That's the end of the Ten Commandments. We will resume the balance of the journey in the next couple weeks. So please bow for prayer. Thank you, Lord. We know you are our God. We know all the miracles that you created to save the Israelites. We know that you are our God. We know that Jesus is your Son. We know that you raised Jesus from the dead to save us from sin, just as you saved the Israelites from slavery and the angel of death. We put our faith and trust in you, and we ask for your strength. We ask to give us your resolve to, in many ways, we are weak, just like the Israelites were weak. We know what you do. We know that you are God, but at the same time, we fuss and we whine, and we just, please give us strength and faith. In Jesus' name, amen.